Hi, welcome to Farm Alarm. My name's Tracy. Today I'm going to be answering some questions that you guys asked about this greenhouse. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. So Kathy asked, I have some questions. How did you attach the 2 layers of plastic to the frame of the carport and around the fan? And also, did we use staples? No, we didn't use staples, and I'll get to that here in a minute and the reasons why. But what we used was a system of aluminum C-channels and what's called, a lot of people will call it wiggle wire. The company that I got it from calls it a stainless steel spring wire. And what that allows you to do is allows to attach the plastic. You fold that, or you lay that over the aluminum C-channel, and then you put the stainless steel wiggle wire in, and it really holds it down. It's a lot better than staples. The reason why I don't like staples is even if you use like a batten tape, which is you'll have your plastic down, and then you'll have this batten tape over it which will protect the plastic, and then you'll staple it down. Under high tension, those staples, even though you're using a lot of staples, those are all points where the plastic can just rip right through your staples, especially in a double layered inflated greenhouse. That's just too much pressure on those staples, in my opinion. So we use the C-channel with the stainless steel wiggle wire. That spring wire was $1.75 each, and those are 4-foot sections, and the C-channel is $5.75 each, and those are also 4-foot sections. Actually, no, those might have been longer than that. Those might have been like 6 or 8-foot sections. I'll have to measure them. The C-channel was actually also screwed down to the frame of the greenhouse on each end. You're only going to need that C-channel right on that bow and this bow right here, and that's where you're going to attach the plastic to. You will not need to attach the plastic to every bow that's in the middle, and we just used a regular self-tapping screw with like a hex head screwed down through that C-channel to the metal of the frame. And then down here where it goes across there, see, we just have a piece of 2x4 that fits right in between this 5-foot, because again, remember I said that these bows are on 5-foot centers, and so we just have a piece of 2x4 going across there. There's a piece of C-channel on the outside that is screwed to that 2x4. Do know that that C-channel can hold around 4 layers of plastic, and so what you're going to do, first we did our end walls. What we did was we just put 2 layers of plastic up, and we used the wiggle wire. Then what we did was we draped both layers of plastic over top of the greenhouse and put more wiggle wire in the same channel. So don't think that you have to put all 4 layers down first and then put 1 layer of wire. So you can actually, if you wanted to do a layer of plastic, wiggle wire, another layer of plastic, wiggle wire, and then so on and so on, it actually will accommodate for that. But I believe we just put 2 layers of plastic and then the wiggle wire, and then again the next 2 layers of plastic, and then that's the same wiggle wire. Where did you get the blower motor that runs 24/7 to inflate the greenhouse? Kathy, let me step in here and say, actually all the supplies, the real greenhouse supplies that we got, were from a company called Morgan County Seed Company. And I'll leave links to all these products down below, to Morgan County, and to every single page of all these questions that you're asking. To talk a little bit about that blower motor, it is a 60 CFM, and they claim that it has a 40% reduction in heat loss, because whenever you have 2 layers of plastic with that air gap in between, because it is inflated, you know, that air gap is going to be an insulation layer. And then you'll also need a mounting kit. The cost on that blower motor is $59, and the mounting kit is $28. And what that is, it's a it holds the, well, of course it mounts the blower motor to the your greenhouse frame, but it also keeps the 2 layers of plastic pushed away from each other, and then it allows that air to get in between them. What type of plastic was used on the greenhouse? So we used a 6mm plastic, a 6mm Tough Light greenhouse plastic, also got from Morgan County Seed Company. We had bought a 24-foot by 100-foot roll, which has a 4-year warranty on it, and that was $192. So that was actually pretty pricey, but hands down the greenhouse plastic is the way to go because it has a UV barrier built in it. It is thicker. It's not going to break down and crack like the regular plastic that you would just buy from Walmart. So you also asked about any other specifics about the greenhouse. Up here you'll see some 2x4s that we tied each bow to, and that's referring to the metal bows on the carport. So right here's a bow, right there's a bow, and then of course you can see the 2x4s that we have holding those together. You know, at the base of the carport frame, they're gonna stay together, but up top here, you know, they're movable, and you don't really want to move it around. That's why you've got to have this. Sorry, it's hard to point behind my head, but that's why you've got to have those 2x4s tying those together. Now you can use any other material. We just used lumber because it seemed to be the cheapest, and we used a self-tapping screw, a fine thread long self-tapping screw that we got from Home Depot. How has it held up throughout the winter? Actually great. So this is the first winter that we have wintered this greenhouse. Double layer of plastic is a must through winter time just because of the heat loss that we talked about earlier with that blower motor. We also added pink foam insulation, which was an Owens Corning Pink Panther pink foam. Just a foam board. We got that from Menards. That was the cheapest place. And the reason why we did that is because we have the 3 foot of metal on the outside, all the way around the circumference of the greenhouse. That actually made a huge night and day difference with heat loss as well, because with that plastic not going all the way to the ground, we just had that metal, and that metal's transferring that cold right in, or that heat right out of the greenhouse. And even the little amount of heat that comes in here from that wood stove, it stays plenty warm to grow a tremendous amount of food, as you can see behind me here. Lots of food right now in the wintertime. I will also say an exhaust fan is a must in the summertime, and as you've seen in that last video, we used just a big box store fan. We did not buy a greenhouse fan. I thought that was a tremendous amount of money, and for this size greenhouse it didn't really need that much. And there are some greenhouse calculators online that you can figure how much air movement or how much CFM you need pulling through your greenhouse to keep it cool. We used one of those, and that's kind of how we came up with that 20-inch fan. And it really moves a lot, but you will need an intake, so meaning the fan isn't exhaust. As you can see right there, we have that fan covered up right now with some insulation, bubble wrap insulation that is lined with foil, just so because we don't have shutters on that fan, just so the cold air stays out of here right now. It doesn't get hot enough to where we have to use it. But what we originally did was we just opened the door every day. That would be part of the routine. We would have the door open, and that would be the intake. So the fan was the exhaust. You definitely need an intake, because you got to have the fresh air coming in if you're trying to pull the heat out. And we would just close that door at nighttime. But then the cats started getting in here. They started pooping in the planters, and that was no bueno, no good on our food that we were growing. So what I did was I had I propped the door open probably about a good foot right here. I built that out with 2x4s, and I lined it with a 2x3 welded wire fence. And so when the door is actually shut, it still has an intake, so that thing now the door can be shut, and it just is able to suck that air right through. And that was a cheaper alternative than, again, buying like a shutter system. And the cats are not able to get in through that. If you've seen our shade cloth video, if not, I'll link that right here. You also need shade cloth in the wintertime. We didn't buy shade cloth from Morgan County. We actually bought a couple of mesh tarps from Harbor Freight, and they work excellent. Do keep in mind that sharp metal corners on the greenhouse will definitely puncture through your plastic. So if you referring back to that last video that you had questions on, we duct taped, or we used Gorilla Tape on all of the edges of the sharp metal. That way it would not ever puncture that greenhouse plastic. Another thing that you'll want to keep in mind is jumper tubes you will need jumper tubes to cross from the main section of the plastic, which goes over the main part of the carport, to each end. If you see back here, I'll get you a close-up right back there. There is a jumper tube, and I have one up on this end wall as well, because since this part of the plastic right here is not connected to this part of the plastic right here, it's not going to get inflated. So we had to put some jumper hoses that Morgan County does sell a jumper hose kit. We just took some old vacuum hose and cut small slits in the inside layer of plastic on this layer and this side layer over here, and then we got that vacuum hose stuck in there and then put duct tape around it, and then it's able to transfer the air from this section over into this side section here. You cannot use treated lumber in this greenhouse. All of this lumber that you see here is none of it is treated. It's all just standard I guess pine or Douglas fir 2x4s. Treated lumber will hurt the greenhouse plastic, and it also does void the warranty, so keep that in mind. Oh, and one big thing about having a fan in your greenhouse, you want to make sure that your fan, see ours, it's blowing that direction right there, and the wind actually mainly blows that same direction. And so you want to know what way your wind blows on your land. If you were actually putting this, if we had it the other way, say I had the door over here and the fan on that end of the greenhouse, and the wind was blowing that direction, the opposite direction you're fighting. Very seldom does the wind ever blow the opposite direction than the fan's blowing, but when it does, I can really tell that the fan is struggling to push that air out. And so just keep that in mind, that you want your airflow of your greenhouse to also flow the same direction your wind usually flows. So that's about it. Kathy, thanks for the question, and everybody else who has watched that previous video. If you have not seen that video of how we built a carport greenhouse, I will link that right here. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave them under this video or the last, and I'll get to them as soon as possible. Thanks a lot. Again, my name is Tracy with Farm Alarm. Have a great day.